Respected principal sir, Daudnagar College, Daudnagar eminent faculty members, and other dear listeners, it is a matter of great ecstasy to assemble here under one banner on the occasion of World Environment Day 2021. I convey my thanks to the organizers, especially Mr. Sumit, for inviting me to present a talk on this auspicious day. Here I am going to talk about Earth as a superorganism and the fascinating science of ecosystem cybernetics. I have kept my topic very audience-friendly by including many illustrations and pictures, and I have not included complex mathematical analysis and mathematical models. Let us see Earth as a live entity like us, we humans. So I am going to start with a beautiful observation, actually, followed by a beautiful story. On a winter afternoon, I was exploring Stone River bank at Daudnagar block of the state of Bihar. Along with my friend Sumit, I witnessed a small pool of water filled with algal blooms, which appeared blood red. Again, while returning back from my walk in the evening, I saw something unusual. I saw that the algal blooms, which appeared blood red in the afternoon, had become green in the evening. The entire point surface, which was earlier more concentrated in the center, has now spread. After studying various papers, I came to know that what I just witnessed is nothing but chromatic adaptation, which is also known as Guidoco phenomenon. In Guidoco phenomenon, the cyanobacteria or blue-green algae change body color with respect to the temperature. This is an observation at a small level. Now let us hear a very interesting story at a very large level. In 1988, the world was devastated by a wildfire. This wildfire struck Yellowstone National Park, which is the largest national park of the world and is situated in North America. The fire was so disastrous and prominent that it was even visible from the space. This is picture of the spreading fire, and this is the picture, satellite picture of the forest from the space in which the smoke can be visualized. Everything was devastated, nothing was left, and nobody had ever imagined that this space will be restored by nature again. But after this, something unusual started happening. The small saplings started coming out of the soil. And within 10 to 15 days, entire forest floor was filled with these blue colored flowers. These are called fireweed. Its scientific name is Epilobium augustifolium. And if you visit that place again at present time, you cannot even imagine that this place was struck by such a disastrous, devastating wildfire. Everything appeared lush green as if nothing had happened there. This is the satellite image during the time of forest fire, and the present image. You can see the red area depicts the burnt area. This has completely been restored. And in this, no human was involved. In fact, the entire burnt area was restored by nature itself. That's why I have put here the famous aphorism of Baruch Spinoza, who was a Spanish philosopher. Nature abhors vacuum, means nature hates vacuum. Whenever there is vacuum, nature wants to create new life. And these were the harbinger of life in that Yellowstone National Park. And these are the plants which appeared from the seeds. Nobody knew that these plants were present in that forest because they were waiting in a dormant stage. The seeds were lying inside the soil surface, and these were waiting for the fire to germinate. So these are the plants which wait for fire to germinate. These are called pyrophilous plants. That's why I have put here the heading ashes to petals, wildfire, and rebirth. It was like a reincarnation of some kind of life which was gone, which was lost by the wildfire. And one of the most pioneer community was that of Epilobium augustifolium, which is on the extreme left side, the pink flower, the pink beautiful messenger of life. It is called Epilobium augustifolium. With these two observations, I would like to officially start my presentation with this hymn from Rig Veda. It says, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. It means this is full, that is full. From fullness is born fullness. When fullness is taken away from fullness, fullness still remains. Whatever new life variety the earth witnesses, the life which flourishes on earth, it has been provided an opportunity to grow by the previous life form. So in totality, our earth is creating life by the interaction of its own component. So earth itself is responsible for its own diversity of life forms. In this regard, a scientist named James Lawlock from NASA in 1988 proposed a hypothesis known as Gaia hypothesis. What is Gaia in Gaia hypothesis? Gaia is considered the Greek goddess of earth, like we call Dharti Mata. So goddess Gaia is similar to Mother Earth in Greek. So this hypothesis suggests that life manipulates the environment for the betterment of life. The planet Earth works as a large organism or a superorganism at the level of self-maintenance, and many ecologists have even accepted this Gaia hypothesis. Because there are some evidence of Gaia hypothesis also, like I have provided here in red. According to Gaia hypothesis, the Earth's atmosphere would not have been supporting life if it were not regulated by the totality of life in the biosphere. For example, the present level of oxygen in the air that is available for respiration to us, we are aerobic organisms. For non-science faculty members and students, aerobic organisms are those organisms which require oxygen to break down their food to produce energy. So the entire oxygen available in this atmosphere was derived mostly from photosynthetic organisms that evolved mechanisms to use water. When there was no life on this earth, there was no oxygen, because when life was not present on earth, the entire atmosphere was reducing atmosphere. There were high concentration of hydrogen in the atmosphere, and there was no respiration to respire. When life arrived, when photosynthetic organisms arrived, when photosynthetic algae and plants arrived, they started producing oxygen in the atmosphere by the process called photosynthesis. And at present, what we know, 21% oxygen in this atmosphere, this entire oxygen, this entire percentage has been the result of photosynthesis. So this also supports Gaia hypothesis. So with some example, let us visualize Earth as a superorganism. Every ecological system is endowed with its own inbuilt mechanism to maintain the balance among its structural and functional components. For instance, many ecologists have considered planet Earth as a superorganism because, like a living organism, like we, the human beings, Earth has capability to maintain balance among its structural and functional components. Ecologists have suggested the term homeostasis for nature, a term homologous to the homeostasis. Like we perform homeostasis, I want to give a brief introduction of homeostasis. We as human beings, we maintain our body temperature. When our temperature gets higher, like about 37 degrees Celsius or 98 degree Fahrenheit, we start feeling fever. We start feeling feverish when we also maintain a strict concentration of glucose in our blood. When this glucose goes above a certain point, the person is this may be the symptom of diabetes. So these all are the characteristic of homeostasis, in which we maintain our body, the components, the concentration of different metabolites, different hormones, different minerals in our body in a specific limit, and this is called homeostasis. we maintain our body in a narrow range of equilibrium. But because Earth is a very big entity, so its range is like a pulsating range. It fluctuates in a higher range. That's why we needed a more elaborate term for Mother Earth. That's why we have given the name homeostasis. The term homeostasis was actually given by Oscar Award winner, actor-director Bernard Shaw. And the word homeostasis was given by Waddington, who was not an ecologist, he was a geneticist. Now let us understand Earth as a superorganism with one example. Like we have hormones in our body, which give signal to different body parts. Okay. Similarly, ectocrines are also known as external hormones, and these act as like we have seen Katputli ka dance, like puppet dance we have seen. So what happens there? The thread is in the hand of one person, and he makes other puppet dance. So these ectocrines act as the thread of Mother Nature, with which she maintains entire tapestry of life form in this world. So these has been called ectocrines or external hormones. These are chemical substances, often volatile organic compounds secreted or released by an organism into the external environment outside its body that may affect the physiology or behavior of other organisms present in the same environment. Ectocrines may be classified as plant ectocrines and animal ectocrines. Now let us see some of the examples of ectocrine. It is one phenomenon called SAR. SAR stands for Systemic Acquired Resistance. You cannot even imagine that a plant can use such an advanced communication system. When one plant gets attacked by some pathogen like virus, it sends a signaling to the surrounding plants, and it really happens. There are papers that the surrounding plants, after sensing this signal, becomes resistant to that virus or bacteria which has damaged, which has attacked the neighbor plant. So this is called systemic acquired resistance. We as a human cannot do that. For example, nowadays COVID is infecting, a lot of people are getting infected with coronavirus and developing COVID-19. But if one person communicate, for example, an animal can detect prey using pheromones. A prey can get protected from predator through pheromones. And for pheromones is also responsible for the maintenance of integrity of colonial insects like bee colony. You will be amazed to know that every worker, every member in the bee community, one thing I would like to clarify, a bee colony has three castes, one worker, one female, and one male. Male and female, they always stay in the hive, and worker, they come out of the hive, collect the food and bring to the hive. So how do they are always connected to the hive? This is also the magic of these ectocrines. They are always attached to the beehive through ectocrines. Similarly, reproduction in many animals, it also happens by means of these ectocrines. For example, reproduction in sea urchins. The male sea urchin, in fact, this is even more unique because the sperm of male urchin, it is attracted towards an ectocrine, which is released by the female body, female egg actually, because their fertilization is external. So sperm and ovum both are released in water and they fuse in the water after recognizing each other by means of such ectocrines. The ectocrine which is present in sea urchin, it is called resact. In bee colony, it is called queen substance. And there are many pheromones like cybernetics and cybernetics, there is muscon. So there are lots of pheromones. And one chemical that is involved in SAR is called jasmonic acid. So we have visualized Earth as a superorganism. It has components similar to the organism, but in a very big way, in a broader way, in a way we cannot imagine at a smaller level. So here comes the concept of cybernetics. So what is cybernetics? Cybernetics is a branch of science dealing with the mechanisms of regulation and system of communication. The term cybernetics has actually been derived from the Greek word cybernetes, which means pilot or a governor. It deals with both natural machines like an animal body and artificial machines like a robot. Hence, it embraces both inanimate and animate controls. Inanimate controls, that is mechanical feedback mechanisms, are called servo mechanisms like engineers, whereas animate controls are called feedback mechanisms in organismic systems and is known as homeostatic mechanisms among biologists, more specifically homeostasis. In biology and ecology, the study of feedback controls in homeostasis is known as cybernetics. So let us understand the mathematical plan of cybernetics. So cybernetics is a three-way process which acts through three keywords I have given you: sense, think, and act. Like us, we first sense the stimuli, then the stimuli is processed by us, then we act accordingly. Okay, similarly, the nature also has a sensor. Okay, this sensor, it sends signals to the control system. It sends signals in different amplitudes to the controller, and the controller, it provides the order to this other system to act in accordance to this particular stimulus or the signal. So in this way, nature also acts as a feedback loop. Nature has its own feedback loop. When something goes beyond limit, then nature has ability to bring that thing within limits. So here comes the concept of cybernetics, which in simple terms can be explained as a science. Ecological cybernetics is a science which deals with the regulation of different life forms by the earth in its reserve. So let us understand the stability which is inferred by any cybernetic system. So because here we are dealing with the ecosystem, so here I will be dealing with ecosystem stability because we are dealing with the environment, the earth. Okay. So there are two types of ecosystem stability. One is resilience stability and another is resistance stability. Now in the beginning, I discussed two different stories. One was actually observation from Son River from the Daudnagar district itself, and another observation that is the second story that is related to the wildfire from the Yellowstone National Park. So I will be using these two examples here. Okay. So there are two kinds of ecosystem stabilities. One is resistance stability and one is resilience stability. So let us understand what is resistance stability and what is resilience stability. If something is resistant, so what does it mean? If something is resistant, then it will resist towards any change. But if it can resist within its limit. Similarly, what is resilience? If something is resilient, then it is not that much resistant. It can get damaged easily, but its damage can reverse within a limited time period. But if something is resistant, it gets damaged, then it will take a longer time to resurrect, longer time to repair. Therefore, there are two types of stabilities: resistance stabilities and resilient stabilities. Now we come to the examples. When fire struck forest, so it took 10 to 15 years to completely come into the shape. This is very long time. But if the pond in which half of the algae is removed out of the pond and the ecosystem of the pond is damaged, so what happens? That algae within 1 to 2 days, that pond will again get filled with those algae. So these algal ecosystem are the resilient ecosystem, and the forest ecosystem, which just I mentioned, are the resistant ecosystem. Now let us see we discussed that Earth can regulate its components, and the regulation arises when different components interact with each other. And Earth has tendency to maintain itself in the state of equilibrium. So what will happen when this regulation fails? So I have provided here one example. This is a speculation of most of the scientists. It is also very amazing to imagine that for last many millions years, like 2.5 million years before 3 million years, not even 2.5 million, 2.5 billion years ago when algae arrived, uh, from then till today, our atmosphere has maintained 21% of oxygen level throughout. It has never increased. It has neither increased nor decreased, nor increased, neither decreased ever. Why? If factors maintaining balance in the level of atmospheric oxygen fail to regulate the same and the levels of oxygen in the atmosphere exceed the normal level, that is 21%, and crosses the critical value, that is 25%, if oxygen level crosses 25%, then the entire Earth will turn up into a fireball, and every living and non-living thing, every flammable object, and even all life forms will char out. Nothing will be left. So this is one example when regulation will fail, what will happen. Some examples are foolproof based, already have been witnessed, like colony collapse disorder. When a bee colony, when a queen is removed from, one more thing I would like to mention here, the entire workers in a beehive are attached to their queen by invisible act of kinds known as queen substance. When queen is removed from the beehive, if there is only one queen in the, mostly there is only one queen in the beehive, but sometimes what happens, there are some queen in progress of making. They are immature queens. If the queen dies, they are ready to take place. But if all the queens are removed from that beehive, the colony will collapse. All worker will disorient, and the entire colony collapses, and worker will not eat, and they will die within few days. So the entire colony collapses. This is one of the example what happens when regulation fails. And this has been actually also mentioned in a movie. Many people would have watched that movie. My Name is Khan, in which Shahrukh Khan has he is saying a dialogue in which he told that if all the bees of the world get extinct, then entire human population perish. Some people credit this specific statement to Albert Einstein also. I don't know whether it is true or not, but when I Google it, Google says that Albert Einstein has said this complete statement. So he was actually true in this regard, because we are the major pollinators of the world, and when they will die, our food security will get affected. We will not have food to eat, and even it is quite logical to interpret that if there will be no vegetarian, means herbaceous food available, then even the non-vegetarian people will die, because the animal which they feed upon, they are mostly herbivorous. So in this way, our food security will also get affected when regulation fails. So now let us see. There are some natural processes on which it is our own interference which has affected the pace of these natural processes, and the human influences on these natural processes. Human influences are called anthropogenic influences or anthropogenic interferences. Many people will get surprised to know that extinction and global warming are natural phenomenon. Now let us see how. Our evolutionary history has witnessed many mass extinctions. The major one was the extinction of dinosaurs. Okay, there was no human that time, but still these organisms got extinct. But before getting extinct, they lived a million years on this earth. They sustained for million of years in this planet. But what we are doing, we are reducing the rate of extinction by our own activities, by our over-exploiting tendency species. Now let us see some of the examples. This is the image of woolly mammoth. Woolly mammoth was flourishing all around our planet Earth when Ice Age came. But these are now extinct due to overhunting. So we have reduced its lifespan, means its survival on this earth for millions of years to a mere 3,000, 2,000 years. Similarly, this is a bird which now we cannot see because this is also extinct. It is called dodo, and it has also been made extinct due to overhunting. Similarly, I think everyone will be knowing, this is cheetah, and this is now extinct from India. This has been declared extinct even a decade ago. At present, African cheetah are found all around the world, but no cheetah is found in India. Government is planning to reintroduce African cheetah in India also, but the original cheetah, the original Indian cheetah will not be back due to overhunting. The next process is climate change. So how climate change is also a natural phenomenon. So let us understand with an example. Our Earth has witnessed 4 glacial periods. Each glacial period starts with global warming and culminates in global freezing. Our Earth has witnessed 4 ice ages, and after every ice age, there is a period of thawing, which is followed by establishment of new life form, followed by global warming again, which is also again followed by global flooding, and global flooding further leads to ice age. So we have witnessed 4 ice age on Earth, but the span of these ice age, you can see. The first ice age started in Ordovician era and culminated in Silurian. Second in Cambrian, and it culminated in Precambrian. Then Jurassic, and it culminated in Cretaceous. Okay, so and so on. So there are 4 different ice ages, but their span was million of years, and they took place after many million years. Like you can see the span 450 years ago to 542 years ago, almost 100 million years ago. But what we are doing, we have accelerated the rate of global warming. This data is from NASA. It shows how intense is the our effect on atmosphere, that within a span of few decades from 1951 to 2020, the Earth has become 1 degree hotter. Okay, and this 1 degree change, it takes about 1 lakh years to come into place, but our activities, our over-exploiting tendencies, the pollution, the greenhouse emissions which we have introduced in our atmosphere has led this drastic change, and it is very disturbing and worrisome also. So here we can see that how our activities are actually interfering with the natural activities, natural phenomena, and we are actually accelerating the processes which otherwise take a million of years. We are inducing extinction at a faster rate, global heating at a faster rate. So this is certainly going to affect us only. So what are the solutions? Okay. So this is in all the philosophy of different scientists. They suggested solution to pollution is dilution. As we know that one size doesn't fit all. So this solution also doesn't fit at present scenario. First of all, I would like to discuss some background. There is a law, first law of thermodynamics. Almost everyone will be familiar with it. In simple terms, what does first law of thermodynamics tell? It tells energy can neither be created nor destroyed. In other words, matter can neither be created nor destroyed. So scientists will give some logical presumptions, and common people will misinterpret. So what is pollution? Because what is on Earth remains on Earth. the plastic bag which we have is made out of the same carbon atoms, same molecules of ethylene, which has been which we have acquired from Earth itself. So plastic is also kind of. If I ask somebody about what is pollution, so I will get major answer like this, that pollution is the contamination of our environment. So what is this contamination in fact? Because the material which is present on Earth is on Earth itself. So how it is contaminating the Earth, why it is affecting the Earth is in a very deleterious manner. Odum, at least a biologist would have heard his name. He is one of the greatest ecologists of modern time. He died, he was born in 1913 and he died in 2002. He provided a very beautiful definition of pollution. He gave which definition we say is a beautiful definition. A beautiful definition is always a simple definition which explain a particular phenomenon very logically and is understandable and acceptable by majority. So he provided a beautiful definition of pollution. What did he say? He said, pollution is nothing but misplacement of resources. While manufacturing plastic, what we are doing, which we are misplacing ethylene, which is present within earth crust, within the bedrocks, and we are creating plastic and we are combining different other material with this ethylene, and we are creating something which is non-biodegradable. So simply it is misplacement of resources. We can see how beautifully he has defined pollution. The second main reason which comes in our way as an obstacle is scientific misinterpretation. For example, recently one scientist, he was dealing with the issue of COVID-19. He was presenting his views regarding vaccination. So he told something about the factor which leads to the fast evolution of virus, because viruses have very higher mutation rate. And he told that if everyone will get vaccinated, there will be very strong selection pressure, and this selection pressure will be at a very large level, leading to means accumulation of more mutation in the virus, leading to generation of more variants. So in this manner, if mass vaccination will occur, if we depend upon the yearly vaccination only, then what will happen? Entire population will perish within 2 years. So many people, in fact, the media, Indian media has misinterpreted this scientific notion, and they spread that if we are taking vaccine, we are going to die within 2 years. So this is completely wrong. This is utter nonsense. And we are fond of misinterpreting these scientific statements. Even in the case of solution to pollution is dilution, we have scientifically misinterpreted this word, and we have spilling our effluent, harmful effluents into the river. Of course, when population was less, the span of the river was so vast at that time, the catchment area was very vast to that extent that even very toxic material, the river would have tendency to detoxify it. But everything beyond the limit is not good. For example, I will cite one more example. We as a human being, we consume different drugs, antibiotics and paracetamol when we fall ill. Where do these chemicals go? Where do these drugs go? Even the people who drink alcohol, where does this alcohol goes? It is detoxified by our liver. But what happens when we start consuming alcohol every day? Then our liver will not be able to detoxify it, and we will develop cirrhosis, permanent liver damage, and the person can even die out of liver failure. So everything beyond limit is not good, and we have to understand this science before anything, and we should refrain from misinterpreting it. Next, misleading philosophies. It is very much similar to scientific misinterpretation. The only difference is that in misleading philosophies, instead of science, the person is more up to philosophies. For example, many philosophers, they have propagated the materialistic view of humankind. They have given such philosophies like human beings are super organisms on this planet, and human beings have ruled to rule every planet. Okay, human beings have a right to rule every organism in this planet. Actually, is it pertinent? We have been created as a counterpart, as a coexisting animal with other animal, because we have developed such a advanced brain. We don't have right to harm others. So these such type of philosophies are also propagating ideas which are harming our environment. Now, over exploitation, solution to pollution is dilution. This statement has also increased over exploiting tendency. And this has led to establishment of large number of factories on the river bank. So over exploiting our resources and creating effluent and sending it to river, these are leading to the presently dying rivers. The river Yamuna, because I have lived in Delhi for 5 years, so you cannot imagine a river like that. The entire river is now dark. There are lots of sewage floating over river Yamuna, and the river is literally stinking from every side. So everyone actually, we all refrain from passing over river Yamuna, and obviously the river Yamuna is in a dying state. So I would like to cite two examples. Those examples are very famous in ecology. How we have taken solution to pollution and dilution as for granted. Minamata crisis, this dates back to 1956. The Minamata is name of a river which was heavily polluted with mercury, but nobody had taken care of that river and taken this crisis seriously until people started dying of Minamata disease. Many people started developing paralysis and brain impairment and many such abnormalities. Only after that it was realized, yes, mercury has contaminated the Minamata river. And after consuming Minamata river's water, they have developed Minamata disease. So this dates back from 1956, and this is due to the adding mercury into the Minamata river. Another tragedy, it belongs to India. This Minamata crisis, it belongs to Japan. The next tragedy is known as endosulfan tragedy, and it belongs to India. What happened? Actually, endosulfan was widely used in India by almost every state, every place, but nobody was aware about its side effect. Few scientists from, they were actually ecologists from the magazine, Down to Earth, they performed a survey and some sting operation. In their survey, in their research, they have found that there are in few districts, in few villages of Kerala, they found that the newborns which were arriving every year in that village, they were getting born after developing some abnormalities. For example, in few children, in few infants, ear was missing, some developed without limb, with amputated legs. So people were not aware that this was due to this particular pesticide endosulfan. Those scientists, they performed their research and proved that this endosulfan is leading to such abnormalities. There are some villages in which each and every child is handicapped due to this endosulfan. Later, scientists proved that endosulfan is a potent teratogen. A teratogen is such a compound which can create such a change in the embryo, which leads to morphological deformation in the infants. So this endosulfan was banned by India far back in 2014-15, and at present endosulfan use is only restricted for research purpose. The last example which I am going to cite is antibiotic resistant superbugs. How do these superbugs arise? This is also some kind of social hierarchies involved within generation of antibiotic resistant superbugs. We as a middle class people, we are the major culprit in creating antibiotic resistant superbugs because we don't think before eating antibiotic. We purchase over-the-counter antibiotics and we consume it even if we have got some viral infections. This leads to antibiotic resistance in bacteria, and our home sewage, the biomedical waste, the sewage from our bathroom, our toilet effluents, they all enter the river. And with that river, the bacteria which we have created in our body enters the water bodies. But we move away with safe hands, okay, because we consume water which is purified by RO filters and all. But what about poor? They consume water directly from the river. So these antibiotic resistant bacteria and superbugs will be affecting them, leading to because in slum areas, such resistant bacteria, they spread at a very high rate because cholera and such different diseases, they follow the fecal oral route. Okay, they follow the fecal oral route, and they are mostly transmitted through the contaminated water. So this may lead to widespread of cholera, and it has already been documented in different slum areas of India. So here the class is also involved, some kind of hierarchy is also involved. So here we see how just by misinterpreting this particular statement, we have created so much ruckus around this world. So Earth is not invincible. Like we need rest, our Earth also need rest. So this COVID-19, which led to lockdown, global lockdown, has created some positive change on Earth also. So recently we have published one paper in which we have cited few examples from the state of Bihar, and I would like to discuss those findings. Like I have collected data from different databases. I have collected data points in two cities, Patna and Gaya, which is regarded the dirtiest city in India. We have collated this value and plotted in the form of graph, and we graph from 2018, 19, and 20. And what we found that due to lockdown, our air quality has become significantly better. The air quality has enhanced significantly, and the different pollutants have units 150 to 100, 169, which scientists assign to grade the level of pollution. 152 comes worst beyond damage, and 69 comes in the range of tolerable range. So both in case of Patna and Gaya, the air quality recovered significantly after imposition of lockdown. Next, we have analyzed the satellite data of NASA. This data has been analyzed after retrieving from the website of Earth Observatory of NASA. And what we have found here that after lockdown, the aerosol optical depth has also significantly improved. You can see I have shown using the this arrow. You can see that the arrow is pointing at the location of Bihar. You can see in 2018, this area was brown. Brown indicates very dense to such an extent that Earth is not visible from outer atmosphere. But as in 2019, it had literally improved, because in 2019 there were heavy rainfall, and everyone is aware about Bihar Patna flood of 2019, how devastating it was. And so 2019, not actually devastating, it led to water logging in Patna, leading to a spread of diseases like dengue. So in 2019, due to more rainfall, the condition improved a little. But in 2020, after lockdown, what we see that the entire atmosphere is very much clear to that extent that this portion is visible even from the space. This is called aerosol optical depth, and its measurement shows significant improvement in comparison to 2018 and before 2018. So we come to the last part of our present discussion. So what should be the actual solution to deal with solution to pollution dilution? Now this strategy has failed. This is now obsolete. So what should be the modern strategies. Should we compromise with development for the betterment of our environment? This is not plausible because development is also necessary, because we as India is the second largest economy in terms of population, and we have the seventh largest country area in this world. So to survive, to withstand, to flourish, to strive such a huge population, we need some policy changes, some shift in our policies. So he is Paul M. Romer. He is the Nobel laureate in economics. Actually, the Nobel Prize in economics is a different prize, but it is considered homologous to the Nobel Prize, and every person who gets this prize in economics is considered equivalent to a Nobel laureate. So Paul M. Romer, he got the prize equivalent to the Nobel Prize in economics in 2018, and he suggested a theory named as endogenous growth theory, in which he postulated a mathematical model in which he told that how sustainable development is possible. Sustainable development is not possible if we consider each other competitors. Instead, he gave an idea that we can develop in a sustainable manner if we consider each other stakeholders in each other's development. This principle is the main driving factor behind the idea of global sharing responsibility. We talk about carbon credit. Okay, the concept of carbon credit was given way after this theory. So this is endogenous growth theory, and this theory, it focuses more investment in human capital, innovation, and knowledge generation. He suggested that instead of random industrialization, random urbanization, we should invest in generating human capital. We should invest in creating innovation platform in research and development and generation of knowledge hub in any country, which is also true for India. Even Kothari Commission has recommended 6% investment of GDP in education. Only after that, change in India is possible. More, I would like to cite some of the policy changes which needed to be in place in India for betterment of our future. One is investment in clean technology solutions. One will see this idea as obsolete because we as a poor nation, we have limited resources. So we would be focusing more on giving employment opportunities and increasing productivity. But here we are wrong, because in long, if this idea is just for short term, which we think about. But if we invest in clean technology solutions, this will lead us to future. For example, recently, Government of India has retrofitted a thermal power plant in Sipat, Chhattisgarh with a critical boiler. So what critical boiler do? In critical boiler, it consumes 30% less fossil fuels. And why do it needs 30% less fossil fuels? Because the water inside this boiler, it starts boiling at a lower temperature. That's why it is called critical boiler, critical temperature boiler. So this leads to saving of about 30% fuels, which was otherwise needed if we would have been using the traditional thermal power plant. So in this way, retrofitting our outdated units can save much more fossil fuel money, and it will also increase the efficiency of the manufacturing units. The next is sustainable infrastructure. What do you think? The flood which devastated Patna in 2019 was really a flood? No, it was not an actual flood. It was human-driven water logging only due to wrong sustainable planning. So we can think about it. So as a concluding suggestion, I would like to put forward my one perspective, like that is, social and economic issues should be tied up with environmental changes while seeking an effective solution, and sustainable development practices should be given priority from the beginning itself instead of correcting faults in the future. So we have to be aware right only, and people only talk about problems. But here in this presentation, I wanted to visualize the earth. I wanted everyone to visualize earth as a live entity. We should think about it and what should be the possible solutions. I have also focused on these solutions, and in our sustainable development goals of United Nations, goal number 13, goal number 14, and goal number 15, they deals with protection of our planet, conservation of our planet, because like us, our planet is also a life entity. So with these words, I want to conclude my entire talk. There is a tribal proverb which is very touching. It made me overwhelmed when I read this every time. It makes me feel the reality to which we are going ahead in future. It reads as, only when the last tree is cut, only when the last fish has been caught, only when the last river is poisoned, then only we will realize that money cannot be eaten. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rahul, for accepting my invitation on such a short note and delivering such a knowledge-loaded presentation. It was wonderful. And with this, I would like to say to all of the participants here that we are open for the discussion session. So I'm sure that after hearing this knowledge-loaded presentation, we might be having some curiosities in our minds. So all the questions are very welcome. So you all can ask if you have any queries regarding any kind of thing.